Or for adults, why not join our gym with a 50-metre pool? Or your club, school, friends can book one of our world-class indoor or outdoor facilities, including our brand new field sport covered pitches. Find out more on nationalsportscampus.ie.
OTB AM.
Brought to you by Avantcard Reward Plus Credit Card. Powered by MasterCard. Straight up better than your current credit card. Avantcard DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
And you're very welcome along to Thursday morning's OTB AM. It is the first day of the Irish Open. We'll be straight down to Lahinch in a minute. Anthony Moyles is sitting in for Eoin Sheahan today. How are you?
Morning, Ger. How are you doing?
Very well.
Good, good.
Have you come to terms with what's about to happen this weekend? Big moment in Meath football history. Seismic game.
I don't know where you're going with this. I'm just going to try to feel you out here for a second.
Well, I guess
You reckon it's a clear victory?
I guess I'm harking back to yesterday's power rankings where Owen had Cork ahead of Meath, and it's ridiculous. I don't think Cork are ahead of Meath at the moment, are they?
I listened with intrigue on the way in, and you gave as good as you got. Now he was digging the heels in. He really was. He takes this quite personal. And obviously he's spent an awful lot of time analysing and working through it in a very formulaic way. His algorithms that he uses come up with some funny stuff. I wouldn't think Cork are ahead. But I have to say, the Cork team, I think he's addressed two players. Like Kerrigan, for me, the last day just wasn't at the races at all. Very, very good when he gets the ball in hand. But there was a couple of really glaringly obvious situations where, I don't know if you remember, once he was chasing back Thomas Sullivan. He actually just stopped as he was chasing him back. He actually just let him go. And Sullivan could have had probably at least 2 goals in the first half. Remember one, he slipped it. He actually went away from him and just hand passed it over the bar. So, but I was impressed by Cork. I was impressed by their work rate. But the worry is, was it just, the old enemy? Yeah. One hit wonder. Like, they just got themselves up for it. Kerry were off. And Kerry aren't the team they're cracked up to be. Certainly the forward line, etc., the bit of power that they have up there. But even from some of the half forwards back, they're lacking. And I think Keane has more questions to answer nearly than McCarthy does, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So then on the flip side of that, I think Meath, and I said this, I think they did a lot of things right in that game, certainly for 40, 45 minutes. Yeah. But if you're not close to Dublin, or even ahead of Dublin at that time, you are going to get into a situation where as soon as they get a goal and they go from 4 to 7 or from 5 to 8, you now have to open up, come at them a bit, and then it's game over. Yeah. Well, look, we'll actually preview the weekend's games a little bit later on. But first, let's go to Lahinch, because John Duggan is standing by to talk to us about. No, not yet. We'll get to John in 1 second. The Pro-Am was yesterday. You're going to hear a lot about the Pro-Am on all of our channels because Joe Malloy won nearest the pin early on. So you're never going to hear the end of it, basically. No. That is it. That is it. Yeah. 13 inches? Yeah, not bad. It's fairly impressive. Which I haven't heard what he won yet, but I'm sure that... Yeah, I'm sure he'll be wearing it or parading around for the next number of months. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. We'll get to John in a minute. Yeah. No, we haven't. Okay. John Duggan, good morning to you.
Hey, lads.
How are you doing? How is Lahinch?
Great, lads. How are we doing?
Yeah, very good. We're live. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. I went to sleep at 8 o'clock, so I'm buzzing.
All right, okay. Good man. Proper Irish Open preparation. What time was first tee? Is 40 minutes ago? Half an hour ago?
6:45, yeah. So Victor Dubuisson and Paul McBride, an Irish lad, Wayne Ormsby, they're all par. Nobody's under par yet, Ger. So yeah, it's a slow, kind of sleepy, cool start, sunny start. But I think a lot of people are still in bed here, having leisurely breakfasts in the next few hours after a brilliant Pro-Am day yesterday. It was great.
Conditions seemed very benign yesterday.
Beautiful, yeah. I went out and walked a couple of the holes. Klondike, which is that kind of famous fourth hole, which is this: you hit the ball into a valley, and then all you just see is this dune, and you got to hit over the dune to the green. You can't see the green; it's a blind shot. And then the next hole, the fifth, is only 154 yards, but it is once again you can't see the green. I think Patrick Harrington was saying it's the only hole in professional golf where you can't see the greens. It's just this dune, so you hit to a rock on the dune. You hit the direction of the rock, and then you land on a coffin green. So there are quirks on the front line here at Lahinch, but it is hilly. A lot of dunes. You need to keep the ball in play. If you're offline a bit, you can get into a bit of trouble. I think the weather is absolutely beautiful here. The greens are so pure. I think Paul McGinley's done an amazing job with the course setup. But if it was blowing a gale here, if it's 20 mile an hour winds and it was raining, it'd be like, over par scores. But I'd say probably between 10 and 15 under par. Everybody was in great form here yesterday. Bumped into Paul O'Connell, Shane O'Donnell, Joe Canning. Saw obviously Joe Malloy was playing with Ryan Fox, last year's runner-up. Everybody was in great nick, and there's a massive buzz around the town. So it's just like when you're looking out across the wide Atlantic Way and you're looking at the cliffs and you're looking at the glistening sea, you're kind of thinking this is picture postcard stuff. And I say some of the camera shots, the TV shots over the weekend will be great, and great showcase for Clare and for Ireland. Yeah,
Shane O'Donnell was talking about how proud he was that this was the county putting its best foot forward. So it does actually matter that this gets out and around the country and showcases the fact that we have some of the best golf courses in the world.
Absolutely, and that we can bring it. It's not just a big industrial course it would the K Club or Carton House. They're great courses, but they're like stadium courses where you'd expect a Ryder Cup to be held. Whereas Ballyliffin, Lahinch, these kind of courses that you wouldn't hold a major on, that you can actually bring them here is pretty amazing.
Yeah, okay. Did you change anything? Any last minute changes to your tips after seeing how the course was playing yesterday? Anything in your bones telling you that you got it wrong yesterday and you want to update it before it's too late?
No, I'm not going to change my mind, Ger. I mean, I generally, even if I think I've got it completely wrong, I'm not going to change my mind. The tips are on offtheball.com. Louis Westhuizen, the main one, at 18-1. The Fairy Tale of New York price. Louis Westhuizen from South Africa, the Class Act, and the other three were Robert McIntyre from Scotland, Eddie Pepperell, who did well in the Pro-Am yesterday, from England, and the other one was Danny Willett. So I'm not going to change my mind, but I do think you need touch around here. I do think you need to keep the ball in play. I do think you need creativity around the greens, because I think it's a touch golf course. It's not a bomber's golf course. But John Ram, I think, was burning it up here yesterday, so he probably is a worthy favourite. But it is interesting. Even Patrick Harrington was talking in the press conference about, even when you play links golf, and he's been playing it all his life, you need to kind of play it a few times to get back into the groove of it. So I'll be looking for players who've been playing well and who do like links golf, and hopefully the quartet I've selected will do that.
A lot of gossip around Harrington being the next host of the Irish Open in 2020. Obviously, he's also the Ryder Cup captain in 2020, so it would be a big deal to be having that and also be the Ryder Cup captain. However, it might help when it comes to inviting some superstars to come who might be on the fringes of the Ryder Cup selection. So double-edged sword there. And certainly if you're the sponsors, you're like, yeah, come on, Pádraig, this is the year to do it. If he's doing it, does it automatically mean that it goes to Adair Manor? Is that what, like, in everybody's heads? Are we making massive leaps here? 2 and 2 getting 22?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. How could he do it? How could he host the Irish Open next year if he's got a Ryder Cup captaincy to be worrying about? Whistling Straits in the United States? Like, he's even speaking at the press conference that it's maybe taking three days a week for him to be working on Ryder Cup stuff.
Now.
This week. So. Right. I don't see how like Paul McGinley's been speaking about this as a massive project, and it has been. I think there's one road in here through Ennis Diamond, and it's park and ride and all this kind of thing, and all these kind of, like, you're dealing with Clare County Council, you're dealing with thousands of people and crowds. It is a big, like, even if you're looking at the tents here at Lahinch, like, it is a big circus that's been planted into a town in Ireland. And maybe they'll have it in the island in Dublin that they're talking about, or it could be Adair Manor or whatever. But I just don't think, even for his own head, how can he be doing a Ryder Cup captaincy and Europe are expected to win it and also be doing an Irish Open? So if I was Pádraig, I'm not Pádraig, but if I was Pádraig, I'd be just concentrating on the Ryder Cup, get out of the way.
He didn't say no, though. I mean, because we all know what Pádraig Harrington's like, he'd be like, yeah, that's a good challenge, I'll take that on.
Well, good luck to him if he does. I love Pádraig Harrington. I've always said Pádraig Harrington is the greatest sports person we've ever had. And he'd be even more high up in my estimation if he pulls off an Irish Open organisation and the Ryder Cup. But I don't know. I'm just trying to get through the next few days.
John, question for you: why is Oudtshoorn why is he at such a big price?
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't win enough. He's only won 9 times in the European Tour for a player of such quality. He won, I think, earlier in the season down in South Africa, but maybe doesn't win enough. He's been second in all 4 majors, has won the Open at St Andrews, is just such a beautiful swinger of the golf club. But maybe it's just all, it just comes a bit too easy at times. But I'm very surprised that he wasn't in the conversation at all, given he was in the top 10 at the Pebble Beach US Open. So that's why I'm pretty nice on him at 18-1.
All right, good stuff, John. We'll check in with you a little bit later on when we actually get some golf to talk about as well. It's John Duggan down in Lahinch for us all week this week. Here's what's coming up on the show this morning. We're going to talk about the GAA cash situation. Obviously, the Fixtures Review Committee is in place, but the new structure has been pushed out by Central Council, will go to Central Council and will be probably put forward to a special Congress. Now, that's all brewing away in the background at the same time as the conversation about whether or not the imbalance in funding, which sees the vast bulk of funding in the GAA go to Dublin, is having any impact on Dublin's success at senior level. So we'll talk a bit about that around about 8 o'clock this morning. Keith Wood is going to join us to talk to us a bit more about the situation down in Lahinch. He was playing the Pro-Am yesterday. The tennis beef, it's Nick Kyrgios versus Rafa Nadal. Colm Boohig's been studying this for years. There's some good background and some good audio on that. They're playing today at Wimbledon, and we'll bring a transfer roundup around about 9:10 this morning. So a very busy show, and we'll get to the papers right after this.
Join Off the Ball in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd for the inaugural Off the Ball Open. With flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, gala awards dinner, Peter Lorry golf clinic, and a live Off the Ball roadshow. You can also hang out with some special guests, including Kevin Kilban and Kieran Donaghy. The inaugural Off the Ball Open. Book now at CassidyTravel.ie and check out offtheball.com.
Okay, let's start with the newspapers this morning. I'm going to go with the Irish Times as first to hand, and it's golf. Sufficient intangibles to ensure supreme examination. So obviously the preview of the Irish Open, we've been previewing it all week, but today's the day where there's actually all the previews used up and there's no golf to talk about. So they're kind of just talking about the actual situation with the course itself. And then a good piece of getting from Eamon Donoghue. Are Galway playing enough Corofin players, and why Mayo's attack is so predictable? Galway built to thwart right-sided Mayo. So he thinks that Galway aren't playing enough Corofin players, and also they're well built to beat Mayo at the weekend.
Yeah, I think the Corofin thing is a good one. I don't know about the weekend. I think Aidan O'Shea is a factor, obviously, if he plays or doesn't play. But they'll be thereabouts. I've got the Irish Independent, and you have line slams, cheap shot attacks over Dubs funding. They're literally lining them up every day.
What word is what
jumps out at me?
Yeah.
I've never heard this word before.
Oh, really? Because that was his go-to in press conferences back in 2002.
Was it?
Yes.
Never ever heard it. Obviously, I didn't listen to enough press conferences about Tommy Lyons. But he says, and I quote, "It's arse-boxing of the highest order."
There you go. Play the hits, Tommy.
Arse-boxing.
What's his point?
Same as everyone else. All the other counties should be doing more. It's they should be just coaching more, and they should be. It's actually, it's not Jim Gavin's fault. That's not down to money. It's down to Jim Gavin and his coaching setup. The players and their willingness to learn. So he says basically, you look at Dublin minor and under 21 setups, and they're not exactly dominating All Ireland's. And if loads of money is being thrown at Dublin, why isn't it showing at that level? But the fact is it's very, very difficult to try to produce 16 and 17-year-olds because the playing field is they're in school, they're doing all that. But when you get to your senior level, then you can really ramp up the resources from 19, 20, 21 on, and you can build and you can layer on a lot quicker and a lot faster and a lot more consistently than other teams who don't, or other countries who don't have the resources.
Yeah, so if you have 100 brilliant 17-year-olds, it's very hard to pick the best 15.
Correct.
But if you have 100 brilliant senior players, you've had 3 or 4 years of information on them, they've been through your system, you know what their skill set is properly, you know how they're going to respond to pressure, you've seen them in club games, so the body of information that you have on them
is enormous.
Yeah. And so that's why it manifests itself at senior level.
You can test them at the highest level to weed the weakest out.
And they're not going after those minor and under 20 All-Irelands as the be-all and end-all of those players' careers, because they know that the point of the minor and under 20 teams is to service the senior team. So they're turning them into players. And instead of putting it all on the line for those 3 months in that summer, they're like, oh, you go off and work on your left-footed kicking because it's not good enough. And when it is good enough, come back to us and join the under 20s next year.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really, they'd be winning everything if all the money was the only thing that mattered.
Yeah. And by the way, no one is saying that. Plenty of people have said there's great coaching going on. Like, plenty of people have said there's a massive amount of volunteers in Dublin football. And, he says, he says, this isn't the reason why Meath only kicked 4 points. So he has a bit of a dig at Meath. But, like, Andy McEnany didn't come out and give out about the amount of funding. Not a lot of people involved in teams have.
No.
It's people like ourselves, shall we say, or people who've just had an opinion through the media and everything else who've gone. And the best one is, he says, fine, if that's what they want, they do it. He's saying about basically people giving out, right? Arse boxing. And he said, but let's stick with the facts, not just that stuff that doesn't hold up. Well, if you want to stick with the facts, let's stick with the financial facts.
The financial facts seemed incontrovertible until this week when John Horan was like, no. I heard in a meeting a couple of years back that actually Meath were getting more funding per capita. Now, I won't stand over that because I don't have the exact figures to hand. Okay, that's an interesting... You're putting figures out there. You're naming the names of the two lads you had the conversation with, and you're not standing over it. But you're putting it out there at a meeting where all the journalists... One of the few times that you've actually given access to the journalists over the course of your entire presidency. So let's stick with the facts as a good mantra, because we should establish the facts. We should, and they should be made public. It was interesting too. The other thing that happened that came up the other day was I didn't know that Tyrone had put forward a motion to the last Congress about having a system where a transparency would surround the allocation of funding for games development. They put that motion to Congress. It was ruled out by the Motions Committee, and it was referred back to I don't know if it was Central Council or whatever body would see it next. And John Horan was asked about this. And he was like, we'll do that. We should do that. We'll do that. He chairs whatever committee it was supposed to go to. And you're like, are you interested in transparency or not? Is this a democracy or isn't it? The other thing about this, while I'm on it, right? Where did the ideas for the back pass and the 2 tiers come from? Who
knows?
So is it a democracy? And was that put out to the general population to go and say, let's have a conversation about tiers? Or was it, here's my idea for the 2 tiers, we're going to put those out and you can have either of them. You can't have anything else. Even though if you go to any GAA clubhouse or any bar room or any school, there are 100 different ideas for what the tier should be.
Yeah.
And it should be like a national conversation.
1,000 different ideas of how to improve the game.
A really interesting opportunity to get people motivated to go, let's have 5 ideas and let's put them forward, and then we'll put 2 and nothing forward to Congress at the end. So
they actually, because I read back on a piece, they actually have, I don't know if it's been out there yet, but they actually have set up an email address, I think it's with the Fixtures Review Committee, that people can actually put forward ideas. But I bet you didn't know that. I didn't. Yeah, so it hasn't actually been widely publicised, So, because I actually I saw that yesterday, because obviously the CPA are doing work on trying to be involved in it. Michael Higgins is our representative on it. But, when you get to the 2-tier thing, and I'm sure we'll get into this later on, you have an enormous cart before the horse now, because you're saying, okay guys, let's start with a blank canvas and let's look at everything. Actually, hold on a second. We'll throw this 2-tier thing in here for a minute. Yeah. So that now is just going to completely mess everything up, and you can work around that, even if it's only for a year or two. Let's see what you come up with. Rather than, well, actually, let's do that first. Let's do the blank canvas first, and then if falling out of that, there's an idea that we should have a 2-tier competition or whatever it is, well then fine. But let's fit everything into the schedule first. Let's try and actually make a decent calendar that is set, ready to go, in stone, and can give some level of certainty to players.
And you've got a set number of weekends for inter-county matches, and your structure must adhere to the set number of weekends.
Correct. We know now the amount of weekends. Right, what is the best structure to give A, the most enjoyment, B, the most playing time for players relative to the amount of training sessions they do, and C, competition or otherwise. And then we'll fit it around that.
Yeah, because
it's the other way around.
What are the problems that we're trying to fix? Right? The problems that we're trying to fix over the last number of years are not enough games between the best teams at the height of summer. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't see the best teams play each other, and no meaningful games for teams to develop over the course of the summer. So teams train all year, play 2 games and get knocked out, and they can never improve because they spend all year training and never playing games.
Well, it was Kieran Sheahan who made the point yesterday about Fermanagh on the show.
Yeah.
He was saying, like, Fermanagh were only bet by 5 points by Donegal, brought them right to the wire, 15-10, did really well. Then they played Monaghan, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
They're gone since probably middle of June.
Yeah.
After having a decent enough league. You know, now people might say, oh, well, you know, then there's other teams who, but there's you're exactly right. The training to game ratio, all of that stuff, and it doesn't just only happen at senior intercounty level, you know.
Yeah, but if Fermanagh were in Connacht, their first game could have been London, and their second game could have been Leitrim, and they could have been in the Connacht final, and then they'd be like 1 game to the Super 8s as opposed to being knocked out. So.
Yeah.
All right,
boxing.
Exactly. The Irish Sun, the back page is Lahinch, a hurl lot different. Limerick's Cian Lynch swapped ash for irons yesterday as he took part in the Irish Open Pro-Am. He was playing in a 3-ball with Shane O'Donnell and Joe Canning. It would be amazing. That's Graham McDowell looking to repeat his double from 19 years ago. Obviously, he won the Irish Close, I think, in the year 2000. No data robbed from the FAI. Good news story. Turns out when they were hacked, it was only malware that was left on their servers. Nothing was actually stolen, according to a statement issued by the FAI yesterday. And then Frank back at the bridge. Lampard is in control. Legend returns. Frank Lampard returned to Stamford Bridge last night to sign a 3-year deal as Chelsea manager. He's 41, up to 5.5 million a year. And he's very young to be getting the gig.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, he's on the back of the Irish Daily Star. There he is coming in, saying hello to a couple of people. But what strikes me on that one is his 14th managerial appointment during 16 years, Roman Abramovich.
And unbelievably
14th.
successful when you think about it. Like, normally that's just crisis. But I think they've the most leagues since Abramovich arrived. Maybe City are getting there now, are they? Or are nearly level with them. But
it's you know, you're going in there and you're kind of saying, okay, my tenure isn't that solid here.
No.
If I really look at the way things have happened, unless Abramovich all of a sudden chills out and takes his eye off the ball. But I believe he gets on well, supposedly, with Lampard. He was a big fan of Lampard, but listen, it won't make a difference. Then we have a little story here about Davy Fitz is talking about out of control, which is there's a headline talking about trolls, basically people bullying over online, etc., etc. Anonymous people. He's having a bit of a go at that. He supposedly has been on it for a while, and he's asking for the government to do more, whatever they can do. Maybe they should do some other stuff first, but let's not go there. Then the Racing Post, we have jumping for joy. England regain World Cup favouritism after landing semi-final spot. They came back to beat New Zealand by 119 runs yesterday in, looks like, where was it on?
it's in England somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in England. Nice and sunny. And we've got tough tests for Nadal in the second round of Wimbledon.
Yeah, Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah.
I hope he killed Kyrgios. I'm not a Kyrgios fan. Not going to lie. A 2020 vision. So it's Harrington, maybe next star to host Irish Open. There he is playing with AP McCoy yesterday. Yeah, Park Harrington hasn't discounted hosting the Dubai duty-free Irish Open next summer despite the demands of the 2020 Ryder Cup captaincy at Whistling Straits. It's being talked about and we're discussing it at the moment. I mean, Harrington would have plenty of backup staff. Like, if it's a Dare matter, I can imagine Dare are going to put their best foot forward.
Absolutely.
The county council are going to do whatever they're told.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
It's going to be absolutely fine. If someone raises their hand, you know, at the local meeting, it'll be just like, you might want to put that down.
Yeah, it'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
O'Shea doubt as Mayo injury crisis deepens. This is further to the story we were talking about on yesterday's show about the boot. So it says here he's having it treated in the cast, but we think it's a boot, as you know, which you see sports people in all the time. They have a boot early in the week. The boot comes off. Yeah. They train once. Or not.
I'd say he'd be okay. They'll give him a few painkillers and whatever else. They might get an injection into it.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably just a small crack or something in the ankle or in the foot somewhere. You know, and they're just keeping the pressure off it. And by the way, you're fit. Like, I mean, there's absolutely nothing he can do from now and like week by week. All the body of work is done. It's just getting him ready. And I'd say it'd be. I don't think I can't see him not playing. To be honest with you.
Yeah. I wonder if we were having this chat yesterday. Is there any prospect that they think, look, we can't win in All Ireland if we have an unfit O'Shea, and we might be able to get through Galway without him Do you take the risk?
No.
I don't take the risk either, but
No.
you
I
take the
think
risk in the Donegal game afterwards and say, look, we can't win All Ireland without him, but we can lose the first game and then try and win the last two.
Correct.
Or the Kerry game, whatever.
Well, whichever, yeah. So
it's Kerry first.
you've Donegal, Kerry themselves, and then it'll be either Meath or Clare. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, listen, we'll have a good rattle at two of these. And I'd certainly be saying, if Donegal, who's first?
Kerry in Killarney.
Okay, you probably have to win that one.
Well, you have to win the other two then if you lose that one. So,
well, if you're ranking, you've Donegal at the top there.
You do, yeah.
Going on, and okay, you play Kerry and Killarney.
Donegal at home, it looks like, and then the Meath games, or the other game is in Croker.
Yeah. So I look. I think you have to just continue to play him. I think it's tricky to leave him out, bring him back in. But this is an enormous game so they'll need all hands to the pump on this one because of the number of individuals they're missing. And he is a talisman for them, and he's a lightning rod for Galway. Like Galway will want to chop him down as much as they can. So he brings a lot of attention to himself, which is a good thing because he's going to have to lead those boys this weekend.
Yeah, okay. On to the Times, the London Times, and it's England's touch of World Cup luck. Freak run out helps to seal semi-final place. So the English men are in a World Cup semi-final this week. And who knows, maybe they will also crash out in humiliating fashion like the women did. Lampard gets Chelsea job and women's game takeover talks. The Premier League may take over the running of the Women's Super League after talks with the Football Association. So the Premier League are looking at the success of the England Women's World Cup team and saying, ooh, I wonder could we make a bit of money off the back of this, which might not be the worst thing that ever happened.
No. The Guardian going again with England. So Barstow blasts England into first World Cup semi-final since 1992. Pretty amazing, actually. To be fair, I haven't been following it that much, but they did beat India and New Zealand to get to that semi-final. So
yeah, they needed to, and they were kind of heavily favoured heading in. So
yeah, decent result for them.
Okay, so that's the front page. Davy Fitz, cyber bullies can go to hurl. There you go, that's from the Mirror. And Paul, I'd like to tee up a job. It's Paul O'Connell playing golf yesterday. O'Connell admits he's ready to swing into action as coach. So I think that's the story that we'd carried on offtheball.com yesterday as well. And Shedmaster Frank's back at the Blues and ready to start a new Chelsea adventure. So Frank Lampard pulling up in his car outside Stamford Bridge yesterday.
Yeah, and then we have the last one here. I have the Daily Telegraph, and again, it's Barstow flying high, but then there's a little story about Andy Murray saying partnering Serena is the chance of a lifetime. So, talking it up about Wimbledon. Interesting one actually in it, for tomorrow actually in the Telegraph, is about Eddie Jones and how he plans to take England to glory in Japan.
There you go, you might as well talk yourself up at the start, right?
Absolutely, put it all out there.
Wasn't that the main thesis of The Secret? I never read it, but the book that changed various people's lives.
Oh, I didn't read it either.
No, me neither. There you go. No point
Still
in us talking
secret.
about, yeah, exactly. No point in us talking about stuff we don't know about. I mean, that never happens in this show, right? Hashtag OTB AM if you want to give us any grief this morning. We are going to talk with Seamus Kenny, the operations manager at Meath Football. In just a moment, we're going to talk to him about the general sense of funding, how it actually works, the East Leinster project, and trying to get to the bottom of what games development money actually does in a county. We'll get to that right after these.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In-store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
I hear you some wiring needs a fixing, ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All Safe Electric registered electrical contractors must give you a certificate of completion that shows their work meets approved standards. Find one nearby on safeelectric.ie.
All right, sure. Welcome back to OTB AM this morning. It's Off the Ball's Sports Breakfast Show. We're here every morning from 7:30 to 9:30, and it's bang on 8 o'clock this morning. I'm delighted to say we've got Seamus Kenny with us. He's the operations manager at Meath Gaelic Football and a former teammate of Anthony Moyles as well. Seamus, good morning to you. How you doing?
Hey, Ger, things.
How's it going?
All good.
We were very interested in just trying to get a handle on how GAA funding generally works and what the role of the counties are. You know, just the conversation has kind of gone from Dublin get too much money to the counties themselves need to do more with the money they're getting. And it's hard for us on the outside to know exactly how game development funding is distributed and what it's used for when it gets to the counties. So I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about what your role is within this whole process and what Meath are doing to try and boost the number of coaches they have and the contact hours that your coaches have with kids.
Yeah, I suppose, look, it's in vogue now since comments made in recent days and the commentary in general about funding for games development. But I suppose, look, in Meath we've been very fortunate in that a couple of years ago we put together a committee that was made up of fairly influential people and some county board officials. So on that committee we would have had the likes of Sean Boyle and Colm Boohig, Jerry McEntee, then John Kavanagh from the county board and myself. It was to look at obviously football as a whole, but where we were going to go, and one of the main things was for us to, I suppose, get extra funding to seek extra funding to put more GPOs or GDAs into clubs and into schools. So we put a proposal to Croke Park, to Port Duffy at the time, and in conjunction with Leinster Council, that was successful, and I suppose that was the inception of the East Leinster project, whereby there was funding allocated for ourselves, Kildare, Wicklow and Louth. So off the back of that, we decided to go with a model very similar to the Dublin model in that I suppose the clubs were looking for the resources. At the time, we just didn't have enough bodies on the ground. So the clubs were willing to put money towards a coach. So the model we built off was similar, as I said, to Dublin, whereby a club would part fund a GPO as a whole, or we would share GPOs with different clubs, or else spread a GPO across a number of clubs depending on population, depending on, I suppose, the size of the club, whether it's a dual club, the number of primary schools in the catchment area, the number of secondary schools in the catchment area. So that all fed into the model, and I suppose at the moment now we have 22 full-time staff working in games development.
Okay, and that's up from how many before the East Leinster project started?
Before the East Leinster project, you were looking at, we had about three of which were part-time, so like it's a substantial increase which has allowed us to do so much more. I suppose one of the main metrics in the early stages was trying to see how we could increase participation, increase contact hours in the schools, and over the course of 2 years that has increased by about 81%.
Right. So
just goes to show, like, by being in the schools there and getting more contact hours, that we would like to think, whilst you can't measure it just at the moment because it's only up and running, but that will help deliver what we're trying to achieve in a number of years' time. So
that's a very important point. I was going to ask exactly how long has because the East Leinster project gets talked about just in the last couple of months. I've seen it mentioned, and I was like, oh, am I supposed to know what this is? Because I haven't really heard that much about it. How old is this project, and how long have you had these extra staff?
Well, I suppose the plan kind of goes back to late 2015, early 16, but it's really in place 2017. So the majority of clubs are only in year 2 of the project. Now, initially, it was all passed to Cushta Bonishty on a 3-year period, but I would be very hopeful that it is extended far beyond that initial 3 years.
Okay, well look, this is really interesting to me because everybody's constantly saying that there's two schools of thoughts. One is that the Dubs need to have their funding slashed and it needs to be redistributed to everybody else, or the other one is we need to bring the other counties up to where Dublin are going, and it's clear that in Meath certainly that seems to be working if the figures, and we're only really 18 months into this project.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose, look, every time there's a result at senior level, there's always a finger pointed as to what's been done and what's been done. But like we really won't see the fruits of the labour for a number of years. And I think people have to be very patient with it. Okay, with the people that we have, with the resources we have, there has been definitely an improvement in structures. I think definitely both volunteer and full time. We have recruited a lot of really, really good people in the background. I think when people see the things are done right, they're more willing to get involved. So I think in the short term, yes, there's definitely there's definitely a lot of positives, but again, it's something that you're constantly working on, and you always want to try and, I suppose, improve what you're doing. Like the idea of going into the primary schools is obviously it's about the recruitment of new players and new people into the GAA. So again, we won't see the benefits of that for a number of years.
Okay, so is the amount of funding that this has specifically gone into this project, is that a matter of public records?
It would be reflective in the annual figures. So the funding that we had been getting previously has been bumped up, similar to the three other counties that are mentioned in the East Leinster project.
Okay, so is it 500 grand for each of the counties? Is that what the figure was, roughly?
It was an extra across the four counties, an extra 500 per annum.
Okay,
so that was on top of what was previously being received by the four counties.
Okay, so Anthony, the argument that the other counties need to get their houses in order is like, well, as soon as they got the funding to do it, they've got their houses in order.
Correct. Yeah, and also you hear what Seamus is saying there. You've gone from a staff of or 3 full-time, 3 part-time to 22. So those people have to get paid, whether the clubs are helping out or not. So there's obviously going to be an expense, and I can see, you actually see it. You can follow it on social media. You can see the different games promotion officers going into the schools. Like, I mean, they're flat out in the schools, and it's brilliant because, like, people say, look at Kerry. Kerry everyone nearly plays football in Kerry, so and you have a lot of teachers, you have a lot of ex-players, teachers who are in schools, who are helping out. In Meath, obviously, with the catchment area, with the build-up of the schools on the border areas around Dublin, you've got massive schools now with kids from all different walks of life. So it's brilliant to have actual officers in there who are, first of all, able to actually help the teachers out, and actually say, well, listen, we can do it this way, small-sided games or whatever it is, and obviously increase the skill levels and just hopefully feed it through. And as Seamus says, you're not going to see really the outturn of that for probably 5 or 10 years, but it's all incremental change. And as you say, the major thing is, once the funding was there, well, the things can be put in place. Like Seamus has done, I'm not going to say it, this is not to saddle up to him, but the amount of work that's being done on the ground, he's quite right. People that say, very, very short-termism. Oh, why isn't it feeding through to the senior team? Well, actually it is. But underneath that, it's feeding through to the 14s, the 16s, the minors, the under-20s. You can start to see it coming. But it only happens because the resources were put in place. And then the actual structures could be implemented and put into operation.
And the resources are put in place centrally. That counties can't generate this type of cash on their own or take the risk that we're going to employ 20 people on a 3-year contract without the backing of the central GAA funding.
Well, first of all, there's the risk of, you go into your club. So first of all, you have to sell it to the club, and then the club have to sell it to the members. Right? So the club sell it to the members, we're going to hire Ger Gilroy. He's going to cost us 30 grand, 40 grand a year, whatever it is, and we're going to pay for that. After year 2, when there's another, people are going, what has Ger Gilroy done? Because you're not going to see, you're not going to see the fruits of the labour straight away. So there has to be buy-in from everyone. And what helps that buy-in is that, listen, we're going to put some in, you also put some in, and we'll do this together. Whereas if it was just left in the club, I would imagine, unless there was kind of instant success, there would certainly be a bit of short-termism and kind of like, well, we're not seeing this, so why are we paying for this?
Yeah, Seamus, I presume the response from the clubs has, as time has gone on, they've begun to see the benefits of this and they realise that they're part of an overall county-wide structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think to be honest, like the fact that clubs were coming seeking it was like that, straight away we were onto a winner there. So like there was a hard sell because, to be fair, there is finance involved, and but we're all aware that it's very difficult to raise money in clubs. There's all like between running up teams, between infrastructure projects, and all the rest. So like I think people are more than willing to invest in this type of initiative because they do see it as a long-term investment. Like there will be a return. So again, from a club's perspective, whether they produce competitive senior teams, whether they produce, let's say, for argument's sake, like they may want to maybe have 3-4 adult teams in 10 years' time. There's loads of different goals and objectives that each club have, but I think the merit in it initially is to try and get a foothold in the primary schools and trying to feed primary schools into the club. And then also, like one of the key initiatives that the coaches do is obviously like the coach to coach. So they're raising the standard of coaching that the kids receive by volunteer coaches. So that's hugely important.
And this is something that obviously Dublin have been doing for a decade, and so there's been a knock-on impact.
I mean, Seamus, it must really grate you that, you know, when you hear the thing of, well, everyone else has to get their house in order and get their structures right, you know.
It does. Again, like, Anthony, we've spoken on this before, like, everything is very short-term. Like, as I said, a result at senior level and straight away, let's rip up the script, start from scratch. But like that's not the case. Again, like there are a lot of really good things going on in Meath and throughout Leinster. To be honest, I would see it. I've seen it in a number of different counties. It's just, I suppose, that where we are at this moment in time, people feel that there's nothing being done. But if you're to scratch the surface, go into the clubs, see what's going on in primary schools. Even if you lose, let's say, from Meath's perspective, if you look at maybe even our development squads or talent academy, like we're competitive at those levels, and the people we have involved are really, really good people as well. So I think from that side of things, we will possibly see the fruits of our labour a little bit quicker. But I think long term, you're definitely looking 5-10 years down the line.
Yeah, and the whole point about it is to raise the number of people playing and ultimately to grow the sport, as opposed to just produce a senior inter-county team, which I think a lot of the conversation ends up being specifically about, when actually this is about making sure that clubs are healthy, vibrant, and they continue to be a key part of their community. Right. Seamus, will you stay with us, because we've got Shane Flanagan on the line as well. Shane is a good Johnstown Bridge man, I think, and is also the Leinster GAA operations manager. So Shane, you're welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the call. Good morning to you. So what's your role in all this?
I suppose my role at provincial level is to, I suppose, oversee and manage this whole, I suppose, the games development side of the house in the province. Seamus outlined at the beginning the genesis of the East Leinster and where it started, and it started in Meath in Dunboyne Castle with the people that Seamus mentioned, Jim Bulger, who was now chairman of Leinster, and Pádraig Duffy attended that meeting, and Pat Daly. And I suppose it's ironic with all the chat around the SRC report of late that if you study the document in detail, that aside from what I recommended for Dublin, it also recommended that the provinces or the counties surrounding Dublin would have to be looked at too in the same context as Dublin at the time. And ironically, those counties were Kildare, Meath, Wicklow and Louth. And I suppose we only got there in 2016, and as Seamus said, the project is only really up and running now in 2017. The points that Seamus made are spot on. We've definitely made progress in that short period between, we did analysis there at the end of last year between 2018 and 2016, and there's been huge increases in terms of participation. That primary schools were coaching 84,000 kids in the primary schools across the 5 counties, because in 2017 we added Wexford to the list. So we can definitely see, and we're quite happy, and Seamus made a point about the fund and staying there. Recently I met with Ger Gilroy and people in Croke Park, and I've no doubt there's not going to be any issue but retaining the funding, because they can see locally that the numbers are going up all the time, and it is about participation. And I think what was it, Ger or Anthony, one of you said earlier on, that regardless of the performance of a senior county team, it's our job to ensure that the GAA is vibrant locally in every community, and that can only be done if we've people active. So that's what we're really trying to do here.
Okay, so you're hopeful / confident that because it's been a success so far, and look, I think everybody's seen the Dublin model work. It has worked very well in Dublin in getting participation numbers up, and in making the GAA strong in certain areas. It still has a lot of work to do in certain areas within Dublin, and I'm sure that's the same in the East Leinster project as well.
Yeah, I suppose, Ger, sorry to interrupt, but I suppose I was chatting to somebody at Dublin County Board recently as well, and they just made a point that it took a good few years for the GPO model and that structure to embed in Dublin. And he said, you know what, it's a bit unfair at the moment. That's a year and a bit almost, or 2 years into the East Leinster project, it's suddenly under the microscope. So Seamus is right. This needs time to bed in. Would we've invested what we did if the structures weren't right in Meath and Kildare and the other counties? No, we haven't, and that's because you have people like Seamus there now, Jamie Queenie, games manager, good people involved in the county board, and similarly in Kildare. So it's easier for us to say, well, listen, and Croke Park to say, well, listen, there is a structure there, and let's try and get it right. But coaching is one part of it, lads. Coaching is one part of it. The other part of it is about getting the management and organisation structures right in counties. And to add to that, like Seamus is in the position, is it 3 years, Seamus, now? 2-3 years, operations manager?
5, is it?
5. Is it 3 or 5, Seamus?
5.
Sorry, Seamus. But listen, relatively speaking, that's compared to other counties, that's a recent enough appointment. And I suppose what we're trying to do is also look at, can we support counties and put a network of people around Seamus through what we're describing as a shared services model. So in April, for example, we met with county secretaries and operations managers like Seamus. I know Seamus, you had a county board meeting the same night, but after that, our management committee passed that we will endeavour to become a shared services centre here, whereby in the pillars of finance, commercial communications, sports science, and areas like that we will endeavour to try and resource counties differently through a shared services model. So if that means a person looking after 5 or 6 counties in accounting or bookkeeping or whatever, that's the way we want to go, because there's a finite amount of money in every county. It doesn't make sense for counties to go out and employ people and stretch the resources even further. So that's where we see us as a province helping counties going forward.
I think that's a great idea. And so, sorry, where are you guys based?
We're based in Portlaoise.
Grant, I thought that was Portlaoise, Strand.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially Portlaoise, you would have an office that runs the back end, the back office of the various counties to help them administer all the rest of the stuff. The county board continues to be the volunteer core of the decision making to say exactly what everybody wants to do. But in terms of everything else, commercial fixtures, even like I'm not saying that's where you are right now, but this is where that could get to, because
it's where it could get to, Ger. And I'm not saying like Seamus is listening in there, and Seamus might say, well, listen, a couple of those areas don't apply to us. We're quite happy that we've access to people who can help out, but that's fine. But Leinster is very diverse. You could almost divide Leinster from a socio-economic and demographic context, into 4 or 5 regions. You have Dublin. You have a county like Wexford, for example, which is a dual, strong, well-populated county, and it's a huge, vibrant GAA county. You have Kilkenny, which is hurling in its main. You have the 4 Leinster counties we talked about in East Leinster, and then in the middle there you have Longford, Westmeath, Laois, Offaly, and Carlow, who are very different to everybody else. They're small, populated, but by God, they're brilliant dual counties, and they're driving both codes as hard as they can. So we're going to have to look at resourcing them differently than we maybe our Meath, Wexford, Kilkenny, and so on. So, can I ask a question on that? Because
one of the things that strikes me is that in this whole conversation, Dublin's ability to generate $500,000 in sponsorship deals, not at the drop of a hat, obviously, with loads and loads of hard work and very well resourced, and a brilliant office in Parnell Park whose job it is to run that. Is there any thought being given to trying to unify the rest of the province and say, to a rival of AIG, for example, you can come in and be the shirt sponsor for the men's and women's teams and the underage teams in all the rest of the counties in Leinster, or even the East Leinster counties, so that you buy a package off the shelf that's going to reach nearly 700,000, 800, 900,000 people. So it is actually something that could rival the Dubs, and you begin to generate massive amounts of money that you share equally then, or as the need requires, with a little bit of performance related in terms of sponsorship deals. Is that the type of thing that we might see down the future? Well, there was some talk of that at central level maybe a couple of years ago, but it is difficult, Ger, because at the end of the day, you do have some fantastic people who are very willing to sponsor their own counties and they want their name on the jersey, but you have touched on something that certainly there is potential in, and that is the whole area of corporate social responsibility and the finance around that. And what I think there's possibility is that, and again, looking at the area of coaching and that side of it, and even resourcing that shared services model that we talked about, whether it's a partnership with a company who has people with that expertise, that their sponsorship could
I suppose, expedite what we're trying to do through the shared service. Or they might say, well, listen, we don't want to be your shirt sponsor, but we want to be associated with you increasing the number of kids playing the game across 5 or 6 counties. So, of course, there's huge potential there, and I suppose a conversation like this on the airways helps to maybe promote that idea as well, you know?
Yeah, because there's two conversations happening. There's the sense that there's an imbalance between the funding that Dublin gets versus the rest of the country, and then there's the other one, which is the finance is helping Dublin become the best football team of all time. And it's hard to separate these two things. They are twin conversations, I think, that need to run parallel. The other, obviously, the reason that we have both on is that the conversation during the week. Is it true that Meath gets more per capita funding than Dublin? Shane, is that a true statement?
I would have said it. Listen, it's a very simple metric, and when you added on what Meath and Kildare were getting previously on top of the new funding, as I said, it was a simple metric I used at the time. Anthony mentioned earlier about selling this to clubs, and it was difficult, and Seamus mentioned that as well. And I met with the clubs in Kildare and the SGA club one night, and we knew it was going to be tough because of the constraints clubs are under, and it came up about a question came up, and one way of answering it was, well, lads, listen, and again, it's a simple metric per head of population. At the end, if this goes through, Kildare will be getting more money per head of population than Dublin, and it was my way of answering a question, and it was my way as much to kind of sell it to people. That listen, lads, if we all row in behind this, look at what we can achieve. It's about selling a vision as much as anything. So yeah. That's how I did it, lads.
Okay.
You can look at teams. You look at player registration. If you use the head of population, well, people in Cork are going to say, "My God, lads, sure, we're being totally under-resourced." And equally with teams, I think Cork has the most teams than anybody else. You know, so.
What is a fair way of analysing where the money is distributed? Do you think, Shane?
It's difficult, Ger, and I've thought about this for a long time recently, and you also have to factor in maybe the local challenges as well. And I suppose I'll throw it this way to you. You take, and you know Kildare well, you take Newbridge. Both Sarsfield and Moorfield they haven't engaged in the East Leinster scheme because they feel that they're doing quite well what they're doing at the moment, and they're driving. But there's a local issue there, and you know what it is. If you drive into Newbridge and during a county final week, and you come to the post office from the Allenwood direction, to the left it's Sarsfield flags, to the right is Moorfield. And it's the rivalry locally that's driving participation. And I'd say if I did analysis on participation in Newbridge, it would be quite high. But then there's other areas where culturally the GAA isn't strong. So we have to take account of that. We equally have to take account of that. People talk about, the big surge in population in Kildare and Meath. It's not as straightforward as that. People who moved in from out of Dublin to Meath and Kildare and elsewhere, up from the country, it takes time for new communities and people within new communities to embed in the local environment. And I'm from Johnstown Bridge. We've been quite lucky. The majority of people who move into our village have a graft for the GAA. I coached under 16's team, and just last week I said to the chairman of the club, we would not be able to field as a club if it wasn't for people who moved into the village, and that wasn't a huge amount of families, but it helped us. Whereas in other areas, it's been a huge challenge. And I don't want to belabour on the point, but when I first began to work in the GAA in 2004, I was involved in club policy and planning, which was the rollout of club development plans. And Sean Kelly wanted every club in the country to have a club development plan. And I don't know how many clubs I was across the country. But what I was thinking about last night, I do recall, because you put up on the screen what SWOT analysis, what are your challenges? Back then, a big issue was, how do we tap into these new communities? So it's not straightforward. And I'll just make one other point. Last Saturday there was obviously a lot went on in Central Council, but a very significant report chaired by Michael Dempsey, and I'm on that committee. It'll be the Talent Academy and Player Development Review report, and that was adopted by Central Council. And through that, we met with 1,000 people across the country, in every county, We met lots of different stakeholders. I fundamentally believe that report will assist in terms of, I suppose, what I would feel is add the icing to the cake of what's going on the ground, through the Go games now, through coaching in schools, and helping players to reach their potential. And when we're talking reach their potential, great if they play for Meath or Kildare, but we want young fellas to play for us fundamentally to continue to play with their club up to senior level.
Yeah.
And I can't stress enough, there's 4 key pillars to that. One is that we're recommending a new player development framework. Secondly, and this is important, we talk about improving our governance and organisation structures to support that player development pathway. The other is coach education, because coaches is crucial, and that's what we're trying to do with the tourist programme. And the last thing, and I think this has been, it's been commented on and it's been maybe a little bit dismissed, games and the provision of games are the simplest and best forms of games development. And the big thing we have in that, we have to get our games programme right at club level and a county and inter-county level, a squad level in particular, to get that right. And if we get that right, I believe every county can achieve their potential. They may not win All-Irelands or whatever else, but if we can get a more equitable structure in competitions, maybe that's fairer too.
Yeah, I think you're talking a lot of sense, and I think look, one of the aspects of this is that a lot of that work that you're talking about and those reports, we don't really get the opportunity to talk about them or to hear about them, and maybe that's as much our fault in the media as it is and that we don't ask about what's going on. But I'm interested here now that we haven't a chance to talk to you. What's your frustrations when you see the debate about the funding conversation? When you're looking at that, do you think, yeah, they're all fair points, we need to get out and address them, or do you think, lads, this is missing the whole point? When you're reading...
Fundamentally, and again, Seamus made the point that very much the conversation is based around what is an exceptional team at the moment. And there's no doubt about that. Bearing in mind too, that I'd say it's unique probably in the history of the association that 2 exceptional leaders and managers, and Pat Gilroy and Jim Gavin, followed each other. I'm from, Mick O'Dwyer left Kerry, fortunes dipped. Sean Boylan left Meath, fortunes dipped. It's very, very hard to get the continuum that they had with 2 exceptional people. But what I will say is player development is complex. And I heard you just when I tuned in this morning, and I'm sure they picked it up right. But the one thing, I suppose, one thing stands out for me in Dublin at the moment is the games programme all the way up. And Pat Gilroy worked with me in a project in Wicklow 2 years ago. And his young fella was down the night we launched the plan, and he asked his young fella to tell him how many games he'd played. And this was in October, and the young lad played 40 games at that stage. And that could be 3 times the amount of a lot of other counties across the country. And games are important. And Anthony, you played in Dublin for a while as well. The quality and the standard of the senior football in Dublin is such that the Brian Fensons of this world can develop even outside of the inter-county environment, because the standard is so high and it does help bring players through. So when people have been dismissive over the last few days about cross-county leagues and stuff like that, they're integral to the development of players, and player development is very, very complex. And it'd be well worth your while for Mick Dempsey, and Mick will get the chance to explain to people and rationalise to people what is involved. And I think the report is going to be a real eye-opener. You make a point there about lots of other reports. We actually had, I think we still have the page in the report where we identified 6 other reports that effectively we nearly combined to write our own report, and they all gathered dust, unfortunately. And all the answers and all the solutions are there before. All the solutions are in the SRC report. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, things haven't moved as quickly. SRC report recommended that 10 counties be identified for funding for football. That's happened. Last week, Cushta-Banishty, Laois were granted 30,000. The previous to that, Carlow were granted money. Longford are in the mix as well. Wicklow are in the mix. And not sure who else in Leinster. So things are happening. And I suppose, I think you probably hit the nail on the head there. Maybe we need to communicate it differently and get the message out there. But there is a lot happening. And You take the funding argument. There is a balance happening. 200,000 of the money we're getting for East Leinster was deducted from Dublin at the time, and that was through Pádraig Duffy. And in fairness, John Horan was involved in that at the time, so there has been an effort, I suppose. And Tom Ryan mentioned that on the Sunday Game piece there a few weeks ago, that there has been a reduction. And if that 200,000 has made a big difference, because we have 30 odd extra staff, and they're working very, very hard. I have sympathy for people in the organisation who are constantly listening to, over the last few weeks, the commentary about funding for GPOs, and people are forgetting that these people, that's their job, and they're talking about my livelihood. And I think people need to be a little bit more sympathetic to that as well.
Yeah, the thing is that the wrong solution here is to cut and punish Dublin for doing well, and the right thing is to say, these projects work, we need to find ways to fund them.
Okay, absolutely. And if you read the SRC, Dublin have followed it to a T, in fairness to them.
Right.
It's an excellent blueprint. They even recommended a commercial manager, and I suppose it took a while for the likes of Mossy to appear, but it did happen. And it's an excellent blueprint of brilliant guy in Stephen O'Shaughnessy there, and Colm Boohig driving the whole player development thing in the county. And ironically, in our report coming out, it's positions like that we're recommending for the rest of the country. So it's just a pity in ways things haven't moved quickly enough.
Okay.
The answers are all there already.
Look, you've been great with your time. Just on the issue of a commercial manager, would you be open to hiring a commercial manager for the East Leinster teams to see if something could be done to accommodate the local businessman who wants to be involved and local business owners who want to be involved, and then also maybe trying to get a national brand who would be able to trump that and make everybody be happy? Because there's loads of national brands who would love to have their name on the Kildare, Meath, Wicklow and Louth jersey, thinking there's 600,000 people that I'm talking to over the course of 12 months.
Yeah, listen, as I said to you, our management committee, in fairness, adopted and passed and approved that model that we presented to the counties. It's going to be slow, Ger, but absolutely, I think, yes, we've John Hockney working here at the moment. His job is divided between communications and commercial, and that's so. Is he stretched? He is, probably, and so we have to look at alternative ways of maybe bringing capacity in underneath him as well. But at the end of the day, Leinster and Dublin are the biggest market, and sponsors, companies, that's what they're after. So yes, I'm quite happy to sit down with anybody in Croke Park. Seamus would say he's doing a hell of a good job himself there in the commercial field, and he has done that. And but absolutely, I think there's huge scope.
Yeah,
I think there's a model going forward here that will work. Give us time. That's all we're asking people, to get it right.
I think, and that's fair enough, especially when we have the opportunity to have these conversations. Seamus, last word to you on that. I mean, obviously, I'm not in any way casting aspersions on the county's ability to raise their own funds, but by your powers combined, all of a sudden you do have a much bigger market, and that's the type of thing that marketing managers are going, oh yeah, okay, it was 100,000, now it's 400,000. Yeah, okay, I'm interested. What have you got for me?
Yeah, look, I think it's a fair point. I will say that we're very, very fortunate in Meath that we have a lot of really good sponsors who have genuine interest in how the games are run in the county and how our teams go. So we are, in that regard, probably one of the more, probably in one of the better positions than the majority of other counties. But I think if you look at the greater whole, the more people that you can target, I'm sure there are companies out there that would see that definitely as a good proposition.
Yeah. Was there anything else that we were chatting about there that you wanted to, before we wrap this up? Because I know, again, it's a rare enough opportunity that we end up talking for 25 minutes about the funding, and it's not exclusively about Dublin. But when you're listening to the conversations, what's your main frustration about how the conversation is always framed?
Look, I suppose, again, not to hammer the point, but again, the short-termism of kind of, well, Dublin are a superpower and all the rest. Yes, to be fair, Dublin just have a credible football team there at the moment. Have they their structures correct? Yes, they do. But we're definitely, I would feel, both from a games programme and from from, let's say, the development side of things, we're definitely heading in the right direction. I would look favourably on what's going to happen in Meath in the future. I suppose the other thing there as well, when Shane mentioned about Anthony playing a Dublin club, I was just wondering which one. Anthony has had so many clubs now at this stage. I wasn't sure which one he was referring to.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Right, on that note, my thanks to Seamus Kearney, the Meath Operations Manager, and to Shane Flanagan, the Leinster GAA Operations Manager. Lads, it was illuminating. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. And we'll talk to you again soon at some point about this. To each his need, I think, and that's kind of what I took from what Shane was saying. It's complicated. You can't just smear the money into places, and you certainly can't unless the structures are in place. And Meath are lucky that it sounds like they have somebody good in place in Seamus who they can say, yeah, we can do business with you because we know exactly what's going to happen, and you're actually part of our wider family here. So if the counties aren't getting their houses in order from an administrative point of view, you can't just inject cash into it willy-nilly.
No, and because like any, I suppose, situation, or even in any organisation, if you just throw money at something and it's being spent, frivolously, well, it's just going to be wasted. So there has to be, and like, I mean, if we were leading an organisation, or if we were the men, and we had a presentation by someone, and it just seemed like, well, where exactly is this money going? So the first thing you have to have, obviously, is the blueprint. You have to show sponsors, well, listen, the money's going to go here, here, and here. There is a certain amount that's going to go to the senior inter-county setup, both hurling and football, but ultimately we're going to try to put it in at the grassroots. We're going to try to develop it. Do you want to be part of this bigger thing that's going to reap rewards? Which actually Shane made a very good point, that teams will just reach their potential. Like, I mean, you're not going to have teams that are going to ever really push for All Irelands.
No.
Right? That's just a simple fact. But can you reach your potential? Then it comes down from the potential thing is if can the teams be on the pitch more often than they're not? So in other words, can the actual, if we're putting our name on the arm of a jersey, or if can we actually have that promoted? So what am I getting for that at the end of the day? Yes, I buy into this whole thing about, increasing the player participation around the county, getting kids, getting schools, absolutely, and I will put money into that. But at the end of the day, I'm still an organisation who wants a bit of sponsorship. So can it actually be seen, or am I just going to be seen like, in one or two big championship games and that's it? I'd like to be seen during the summer. I'd like to bring our sponsors or our affiliates from America over to a few games and actually let them see that, here it is in front of you, our name is on the jerseys, and that's fantastic. Meet the players, do whatever it is. I think there's things being done. I get the feeling that people are stretched, right? And again, it comes back down to resources, right? You've spoken to Mossy, I've spoken to Mossy a number of times about what he did with the whole commercial manager side of stuff. And he went out to companies, but he was pushing open doors to a large degree. Now, I'm not belittling the job he did. I'm sure it was very, very difficult, and still proves to be. And when you talk to some people in Dublin, like Noel McCaffrey would be a big advocate of the fact that the Dublin club scene is a mess because of what's happening with the inter-county team, that things are just ran off really quickly then, that fellas are just hanging around for 6, 7, 8 months playing meaningless league games. Most of them could head to America. So you have no really vibrant club scene. So sometimes under the water, everything isn't great. Under the surface, should I say, in certain things. I think there's a lot of work being done. What amazes me, what Shane says there, and I've seen this a bit, Ger, with this CPA stuff, is that there are a massive amount of reports that have been done by really good people. Like Liam Sheedy did reports, different people. He did this report on the hurling, the status of hurling and around the peripheral counties. There's lots of people who've done massive amounts of bodies of work, but it seems like when they're done, they're just left to one side.
Yeah. Part of that, I think, is because the system rewards presidents who have such short terms. And because you've got a short term, you've got to do something in your term.
Yes.
And if you don't achieve something in your term, people go, well, what did you do as president? When actually, that's not really the whole point of that. You're supposed to kind of steer the ship. And maybe it's the political side, the Director General in that office are the ones who are supposed to be driving this stuff. But I'm not quite sure if that's if they feel like that's their role either, as opposed to... It's a weird organisation in that it's a little bit split between the constant people are constantly trying to get elected president every 2.5 years.
And to make an impact.
Yeah.
So, and when you think about it, like really, what is it? The last 6 months of a presidency is probably just...
The last year, really, because it's the previous year's Congress that
Correct.
The next president gets elected.
So you've got a window where you have to make the big impact.
Which is 18 months, effectively, at the start.
So you're in there, bang, straight away, and it just kind of leads us onto the, but you want to go there now, but the John Horan thing about the two-tier system. Like, he obviously thinks that this is a legacy that he could try to hammer in, and for whatever reasons he thinks it's the right thing to do, and there's lots of people who would support him on that, and it's kind of it smacks to me of, well, we're gonna do this, and I've got a finite window to do it, and I'm going to make sure it happens.
Obviously Meath have great sponsors. You get they've had Largo Foods and Tato Park and all that over the years, and whoever else, but I do feel like if you combine those markets, and you could have opt-ins, so maybe year one, Meath are still not actually fully on board, but year two, they realise that there's a massive benefit for them, and you can keep the other sponsors if you carve out properties for them. So the Meath Senior Club Championship and all of their underage stuff, or there's like, I don't know, the development squads or something. I didn't realise development squads are a dirty word in some places, but like there's definitely loads of stuff going on that you could have them. They could be a secondary tier sponsor, so the stadium, the main banner in the stadium. There's loads of other things that you could do to keep the local sponsors while you're actually then targeting proper either multinationals or big national brands.
Yeah. Well, if you're right, like, I mean, Meath had the Friends of Meath. Kildare had the Kildare kind of club, was it, a couple of years ago? It was disbanded, and it was a lot of businessmen who would pay, they'd put up their €1,000 or €5,000, whatever it was at the start of the year. There's definitely, I think what you don't want is, well, what we have, we're just going to hold on to, right? And you do your stuff at Kildare. So if a big multinational moves into Naas, you're all over it, and you get a big lump. Because then it just becomes
short term.
Correct. And it becomes kind of like, well, we're all just going ahead and playing for ourselves again. I definitely think someone needs to take a hold of it from the central administration standpoint. And when go back in your AIG thing is, I can't see how this is that difficult, right? But you put down a figure, you say, right, okay, yes, somehow extra has to go to Dublin because of the playing population and the size, right? And then we do it based on the figures that we have with regard to the size of the clubs, the amount of clubs, and we apportion it out. Here we may have to boost here because we want to increase the game here in the participation. But then we get the large sponsors into a room. AIG, you can continue to do that. But with a portion of your money, it has to go into a central fund. So we all have to put money into a central fund, 50k, 100k, whatever it is. And that fund then is disseminated in a way that we can all agree. Like you're going to be talking with some smart people, CEOs or marketing officers of big companies who would say, well, actually, we would like our money to go into the grassroots. We're already sponsoring the main team. Could you put it down there? And can you show us a plan then for that? All of a sudden, you raise a couple of million.
And the rising tide lifts all boats.
Correct.
All right. Let's talk a little bit of golf. We're going to hear from Keith Wood in a minute. First, though, here is Paul O'Connell speaking yesterday. How look?
I'm disappointed that Jerry Flannery and Felix Jones are gone. I thought they were two fantastic coaches, good guys that were well worth investing in and developing for the future. So from that point of view, I'm really disappointed. But having said that, the two guys they seem to have got in are great. I know Graham Rowntree really well. He's actually going to come down here to Lahinch for a night in August with us. So he's a fantastic coach, a good guy, comes from a club similar to Munster as well and would have similar values. Stephen Larkham I don't know a lot about, but I suppose I would have analysed and watched a lot of Australia playing, and they played some fantastic rugby. So he's obviously a very smart guy. So I think coaching is the difference now in rugby. You see it with Joe Schmidt with Ireland, you see it with Eddie Jones with England, you see it with Stuart Lancaster with Leinster. Good coaching is what makes the difference. So if Jerry and Felix had to leave, I think they've gotten two very good guys to replace them.
Yeah, Keith, well, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Good morning.
Were you playing alongside Paul O'Connell yesterday?
I was indeed. We had Shane Byrne and Andrew Johnson beef, and we had we had a bit of a hole yesterday. Actually, it was good.
And who won the money, Keith?
Would you believe we didn't play a match against ourselves? First time ever. We tried to concentrate as a team, and maybe we should have played as a match against ourselves, because as a team we didn't do so well. So it was great. It was brilliant, and Lahinch looks extraordinary and is playing I've never seen as I've known Lahinch pretty much all my life, and I've never seen it in anywhere near the condition it is at the moment. It's amazing.
That's the job that everybody around the course has done, but it's also kind of a testimony, I think, to McGinley and just his ability to inspire people to do things that they've never done before and to organise things.
There's a bit of that too. I had a long chat with Paul afterwards, and he was kind of, which I love it when you talk to sportsmen that are, because he's still a sportsman, but his main sporting achievement is behind him. And he said the thing that actually sets him alight at the moment is a project. So the Ryder Cup was a project. So he loved that. He loved the idea of getting stuck into all the myriad possibilities and problems that happen in a big organisation or big event or big competition. But he loved it and cherished it. And since that, he has wondered what has been missing, and now he's come back into the idea of saying, well, here I am doing another big project, doing something in the west of Ireland, and saying, how much he got a kick out of it. And I have to say, when you watch how people react to him, you're dead right, he's going to get a kick out of it, because everybody is doing whatever he says, because the place is amazing. There really is. It's great credit to him, but a great credit to the Lahinch Golf Club too, what they've done.
In a weird way, Rory McIlroy stepping away from it being the Rory McIlroy tournament is actually maybe one of the best things that might have happened to it, because we might not have had Lahinch on the roster of courses. It was definitely what McGinley wanted, and who knows where everybody else is going to take it. Like, it might have been easy for Rory to continue doing it in places that were suitable for him and that were handy for him, whereas actually McGinley been brave, taking it to Lahinch, and it's a massive ad for links golf the whole way along the west coast of Ireland.
Well, it is. I mean, McGinley's a dub, but he has a history in Lahinch, and played in the south of Ireland down here, and knows what it's about. And I do think there's something lovely about the idea that different people get an opportunity to put their stamp on it. And then you could hear Padraig Harrington was talking yesterday about what he wanted to do this now. This has now become almost a rite of passage for players that are approaching the end of their career, that they can do something that is legacy based. And that could only be good for the sport and good for some of the old golf clubs, or even some of the new golf clubs in the country that are outside of the capital. It was interesting, McGinley said that as well yesterday, that too often around the world, and he wasn't talking about Ireland, but too often around the world, matches, big competitions, events are based around the capital cities, and sometimes it just needs to spread the love a little bit further. So you could feel it yesterday now, I have to say. There was an atmosphere in Lahinch. It was like a party. So the whole place was buzzing. There was people streaming all over the place. And because the golf course is literally in the centre of the town, there's people just streaming everywhere, but giggling, laughing, a lot of fun. Obviously laughing at some of the golf too.
But I guess that is the point, that when you take over a town, you bring a carnival, it feels like a carnival. If this was in Dublin, it gets a little bit lost sometimes. It's just another thing that's happening this weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of different. Even when I go back to rugby, I always say, an international is in Dublin. It's a small city, because 60,000 people suddenly come in and on top of it, and you don't notice it at all in London. Like, you never know there's an international match in London. But when you go to golf, and golf fans are, like yesterday, again, it's just the things that were striking, because there was a lot of GAA players playing in the Pro-Am, and plus because there's a lot of GAA fans in the country, the amount of kids in GAA and rugby and soccer jerseys around is fantastic. And it just brings golf into being something that's more easily and readily available. And there's a lot of celebrities, and a lot of sports guys and ex-sports guys playing, chatting to the kids. The kids are only a couple of feet away. There's this great sense of banter about bringing it into something that is a little bit more social.
How's Beef's game? Is he going to contend this week, do you think?
I thought he was. I think he kind of rushed in, and he played some phenomenal shots around the green. I thought his long game seemed to be a little bit off, and it's tricky in Lahinch. If you're straight, the ball bounces forever. If you're not, you're up to your neck in grass, and it can be very difficult. So he played some phenomenal. I get stunned when you watch the touch around the greens of some of these players, and Trying to get a ball to check and stop on the fast greens that are linked is difficult, but he seemed to be able to do that fairly comfortably.
And what's Paul O'Connell's golf game like?
Paul's golf game is, Paul was a really good golfer when he was a kid. He then became a giant of a rugby player, and his body is starting to kind of disappear a little now. He's in that period a few years after retiring where I don't know if he knows where his body is. So he, again, can play extraordinary golf shots, but he was struggling for the front nine yesterday now, and he's a perfectionist, so life wasn't great for 9 holes, and then he suddenly went birdie.
Wow.
So, he played some really good golf. And Shane Byrne was our fourth. And in my life, I've never seen a player swing as fast or hit the ball as high as Shane Byrne. And once he got his eye in, he was actually incredibly accurate. But he belted the ball a mile into the air, so it was fun. Very different styles.
And how did you play, Keith? That was the big question I was leaving to last. How did you play?
You know what? I'm aesthetically not very pleasing on the eye, but I'm fairly effective. I played well yesterday. I got a bit tired at the end, actually, but I got the scorecard a good few times, so I was happy.
All right, well, it sounds like a good fun, a good day was had all round, and Lahinch is showing off its best wares.
Honestly, it is a place to go to. I know that they're fairly packed, but I'll equally say the traffic management to go 10 miles from the city, I know that doesn't sound like, or 10 miles from the town, I know that doesn't sound like the most attractive thing to be talking about, was amazing, because you could be in and out of Lahinch very, very quickly.
Some sexy traffic talk, Keith, I love it.
Well, I tell you, it's important because you're trying to get something. You want to tell people to come along, and if they're going to be waiting in traffic for 2 hours, it's not going to be a whole lot of fun. It was very, very effective yesterday, but look, I think it's going to be great. There was no wind in the morning yesterday. There was wind in the afternoon. Lahinch needs a bit of a puff of a breeze to protect it, because it does bounce so hard, and we've had some very dry weather, but there could be very low scores up there. The guys attacking the flags, but I think it's set for an amazing 4 days.
Well, look, good stuff. Good to have you with us this morning, Keith. Thanks a million.
Pleasure. Cheerio.
It's Keith Wood giving us some thoughts about the Pro-Am yesterday. We'll get John Moyles, no doubt, later on the radio tonight. And a reminder, if you want to come to Abu Dhabi with us, head over to offtheball.com/open, and you can get all the details of our trip from the 17th to the 23rd of November. A reminder too that we're heading off to a reminder about our 3 20x20 roadshow that's coming your way next week. So it's 7 days away at this point. On the 11th of July, we're going to gather some of the greatest sporting talent Ireland has ever produced to find out what made them fall in love with sport and who helped them along the way. So this is all about role models and the important part that they play in getting women and girls into sport. It's in association with 3 and 20x20. So we've got Sonia Sullivan, Annalise Murphy, Rena Buckley, Mary O'Connor, Jessica and Kate Harrington, and a few more announcements to come in the coming days as well. This live show takes part in the Alex Hotel, and there's limited tickets left. Head over to offtheball.com/events for more details on that. We're going to talk about a tennis beef next that you need to get up to speed with ahead of today's Wimbledon. Colm is on the way to talk about that. But first, though, we've got a quick word with always Joe Canning yesterday at the Pro-Am. Have a look.
Yeah, it is frustrating, to be honest. There's no point in saying it. Otherwise, your goal is, when you get injured, to get back as quickly as possible and try and influence something about the summer. But unfortunately, I've only got 20 minutes myself. But that's the way it goes. It's very unusual. 4 teams on 5 points, and we were just the unlucky ones, I suppose. And that's the way it goes. That's the way the cookie crumbles, and we just have to prepare again for next year and move on.
Wexford one win, Leinster champions, great for them and great for Davy. Is it fair? Are you happy with this round robin structure for Leinster Munster?
Yeah, it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? If we were through, we would have been fine. So it is what it is. But I think over the past 3 years, I think we've played something like 20 championship matches and we've only lost 2. So yeah, it seems a little bit harsh in that aspect when you look at it that way. But that's not given out about. That's just a fact. But that's just life, and it's a good structure. I think everybody is happy with the competitiveness of Leinster and Munster, and I think even this year Leinster was as good, if not better, than Munster in some aspects. Because it was a little bit closer in all the teams. So yeah, I think it's only good, and you have a good few teams left in it all. for the rest of the year, and it's going to be an interesting kind of quarter-final, semi-final, final.
Yeah, that is some stat. 2 defeats in 3 seasons. I hadn't realised that. It's Joe Canning coming to terms with slowly the situation at the moment that they're out of the championship there. It's well, at least he's allowed playing the prom. Would he be allowed? He probably would be allowed playing the prom anyway, wouldn't he?
Might be restricted, I'd say.
Keane Lynch was all right.
Yeah, Keane Lynch is okay.
Yeah.
Looked
He's
okay.
younger though. So.
Yeah.
It's 8:54 this morning. You're listening to OTB AM. It's Off the Wall's Sports Breakfast Show. We're with you every morning from 7:30 to 9:30. You can get us live as a radio show on Go Loud. You can get us live as a radio show on offtheball.com/radio. Or you can watch us on youtube.com/offtheball. Now, Colm Boohig is here to talk to us about a Wimbledon match, a second round Wimbledon match that actually is more hyped than most of your average second round Wimbledon matches because these two hate each other.
Yeah, this is going to be the match of the tournament, I would say, overall in terms of excitement. These guys just fundamentally do not get along, and it all stemmed. We should get into it now to listen to it first to get some context for this beef.
We're talking Nadal and Kyrgios.
Nadal, Kyrgios. With this, to get some context for the beef, Kyrgios did a podcast called No Challenges Remaining in Rome in May.
Okay.
And the presenter asked him to give his take on certain players, and he gave his take on Rafa Nadal, and this is what he said.
I'll go to Nadal next.
This is dangerous, but I don't know. He's my polar opposite.
Yeah.
Like literally my polar opposite. And I don't like, and he's super salty. Like every time I've beaten him, he always, when he wins, it's like, it's fine. You know, he won't say anything bad. Like he'll credit the opponent. Like he competed well today. He was a great player. But then as soon as I beat him, it's just like, he has no respect for me, like my fans, like, and I'm like, and no respect to the game. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I literally played this way when I beat you the other previous times and nothing changed. Like, nothing changed. When you beat me in Rome here a couple years ago, nothing changed. I was the same person. And then, like...
You think it's that thing that I was saying before, like, because of what the visible effort you put in and don't put in, like it offends people when
Maybe,
you beat them.
but
Because
again,
he's like his whole thing is like, I work so hard all the time.
I understand that, but you can't. I feel like it just makes you look like it just doesn't. It's not a good look for you. I feel like he's just. And then Uncle Tony came out saying like he lacks education. I'm like, bro, I did 12 years at school, you idiot. Like, I'm very educated. Like, and like I understand like you're upset that I beat your family again, but like. I'm not going to be the same as like Nadal. Like I'm so different. Like we do things differently. Why can't we just accept that? Like you know what you're walking into when we walk out there. Like don't wait till you lose a match to say like things, because when I say something after I play him, like it's not going to get noticed as much. But when he says something, it's like that's the only thing that matters. Like they're like, oh yeah,
because he so rarely says things.
Correct.
Like
and then everyone's like, oh yeah, he must be right. Like this guy must lack education. He must like lack respect. And then like, and you're asking me like why I do things like and why like I like go back at fans in the crowd, and that's why, because I'm just like these guys show me no respect.
But no respect's a two-way street, right?
Yeah, but you notice there a lot of highlights, but one of them was every time I beat him, Kyrgios said. Kyrgios has beaten Nadal 3 times. But to put the whole thing into context, Nadal has 18 Grand Slams, Kyrgios is 0. But Kyrgios has this ability to be absolutely brilliant against the best guys, so he's created a bit of modern history for himself. He's the only guy to have beaten Federer, Nadal and Djokovic the first time he's played each of them.
Right.
And he's actually 2-0 against Djokovic, who's the world number 1. Now, if you thought that was bad what he said about Nadal, he says way worse about Djokovic in the same podcast. But also, it's very tough to encapsulate Kyrgios in one sentence. I tried to do it on offtheball.com with a feature about him. But I suppose the best way to put it would be that podcast was sandwiched in between round 1 and 2 of the Italian Open in May. In round 1, he beat Medvedev, who's number 11 in the world, hammered him. He tried his now famous underarm serve, his trademark, Kyrgios. The following day, he played a qualifier, Casper Ruud. He smashed his racket on the ground repeatedly, shouted into the crowd, threw his chair onto the court and walked off, didn't finish the match at all. And that is the Jekyll and Hyde of Nick Kyrgios. And even in the first round of Wimbledon on Monday, he lost his 4th set 6-love, won his 5th set 6-1. This is him.
Yeah.
This is what he does.
Yeah.
And last night, to prepare for this game, he went to the pub.
Did he? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, was he spotted?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's on the Australian this morning.
Yeah, presumes on purpose that he's doing.
Yeah,
I'd
say it is.
He does this. He was asked in the same podcast, and he's actually been asked in several interviews, is the reason you do this that you don't prepare properly, that you don't really train, that you don't take it seriously, is because you're afraid ultimately of failure? And he didn't reject that claim, didn't reject the notion of it. You know, he is Marmite. I would say if you ask most people their opinion of him, it'll be more negative than positive.
But
he is box office.
Yeah.
He is box office.
What age is he?
24.
Okay, so he's still, well, I suppose it's not young in tennis terms, but it's not old either.
Well, no, I mean, Federer's 34, 35, maybe a bit.
37.
37, Nadal's 33.
Yeah.
But Kyrgios made himself famous 5 years ago against Nadal at Wimbledon in 2014. He beat Nadal at 19. And that was obviously 5 years ago when Nadal was pretty much in his peak.
Top of his game.
Yeah, and Kyrgios beat him in 4 sets. 4 sets against Nadal back in 2014. That's some feat. So Nadal's scared of this guy.
Is it like, I think I used to love watching Wimbledon as a kid and everything else, but I think over the last, say, 7 or 8 years, kind of post Agassi and stuff, there was obviously the rival between Nadal and Federer, but there wasn't that many characters in the game. Yeah. Like, I mean, it had gone very, very samey, and Nadal's not a character, you know, and Federer is as straight as you get. Like, I mean, it's a perfect brand for all the Swiss sponsors. So he is something different.
He is. Well, the reason he has such a cut-off, Djokovic, is he says that Djokovic is obsessed, has a strange obsession with wanting to be liked. So Kyrgios just says what he wants all the time. And people don't like that, and it's completely understandable. Yeah. I mean, his post-match press conference on Monday, he beat his compatriot Jordan Thompson. That was box office. It's 6 figures on YouTube now. He was shooting down every question he didn't like from the journalists. Kyrgios, yeah, Nick Kyrgios. But Nadal, on the other hand, is so straight up, so straight edge, that these guys are total opposite. They have mutual respect, and Nadal, there's no doubt about it, Nadal fears this guy.
They respect as players, but they obviously hate each other.
Yeah, he was asked directly, do they dislike each other on Monday, Kyrgios, in the press conference, and he says, he kind of avoided the question, which is very unlike him, and he said, look, he's one of the best players of all time. And Nadal said, you know, this guy is a serious threat and I don't want to play him this early in the competition. Bear in mind, you have to remember, Nadal hasn't won Wimbledon since 2010. So he wants to win this. I mean, out of his 18 Grand Slams, 12 of them were on clay and French Open.
Is Wimbledon an ever issue? Is it out of the hat type thing as regards, you know, where you meet guys?
It's seeded thing.
Right, okay.
Yeah, Kyrgios is unseeded. He's number 43 in the world. He was as high as number 13 late 2016.
But he could easily beat him.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised at all. We were just talking about it in the office before I came in. I mean, who's going to win today? My gut says
Nadal's going to win.
Oh, I don't know. See, the only thing is Kyrgios.
Depends how many pints he had last night.
Well, Kyrgios played a 5-set match on Monday, okay, and that went to the wire. But he threw the 4th set. He could have finished that earlier.
Yeah.
Whereas Nadal, who played his first grass court match in a year on Monday, won in straight sets. So everything says Nadal. But I would not be surprised if Kyrgios came out to win.
What time are they on
So
court?
it's approximately 4:15 on centre court, and actually hopefully it'll be delayed a bit so everyone can get to see this. This is without doubt going to be at the very least the match of this week, but I would say it's going to be the most exciting match terms.
Wow.
Like, there's no, like, unquestionably Kyrgios is going to do something that is outrageous, either positive or negative.
There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype. You're Don King.
I have no problem hyping it
full
this much.
Don King in this column.
I would say it all the time. Willow Allen said I'm a fanboy of Kyrgios. I'm actually not. I just find him interesting. It's going to be unbelievable.
Look, sports needs its assholes, and it's he is definitely tennis's. I just can't. I mean,
I heard you say that earlier.
What do you know? I haven't really listened to him much, but even just listening to him there,
walking off in games.
Yeah.
The constant stuff with umpires when that's an old shtick, right? Like, get a new shtick.
Would people have said the same thing about McEnroe?
Yeah, exactly. But the difference is McEnroe won Grand Slams. Kyrgios, the furthest Kyrgios has gotten is a quarter-final of a Grand Slam, and the last time he did that was 4.5 years ago.
Did McEnroe win them instantly? You know, like did McEnroe come on the scene and just go bang?
Early enough, yeah.
He won them, yeah. And he was when Bjorn Borg retired. McEnroe.
Yeah, took over.
So Kyrgios, I was checking there. So Andy Murray's 25 when he wins his first Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And I've been knocking on the door. Like, Kyrgios is nowhere near that level of tennis player, and he gets too much hype, I think, because he's not as good as he thinks he is, even though he beats these guys sporadically. Like,
right,
a bit of a big time Charlie.
He's actually good friends with Andy Murray. Funnily enough, they're similar characters.
Are they?
Yeah, very similar characters. Kyrgios, I would say, has one of the most natural talents in the whole sport. On his day, he'll beat anyone repeatedly.
I realised about the Agassi's book,
Open,
was that there's so much. It's such a mental game. Like, they go in, and if I'm used to playing you because I've played you since we're 12, right? I know I have your number, and you know I also know. And actually, it's nearly done. Like, I mean, yes, you get upset, but there's a. I'd say if you were to go of all the sports, how many times does it go to script? Does it go to you've beaten me already? You're really good on clay. I'm not so good on clay, and you just do the job on me again. And there's moments in games, like in Agassi's book, you'll see where he's like, and this particular shot, and then I knew I had him, and it could be very early in a game. So I'd say he is the outlier that they're all kind of going, well, he could take me anytime.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing to have.
He's going to do the underarm serve today, and Nadal is going to react very badly to it. It's going to be great.
Give me a prediction.
Kyrgios in 5.
Oh.
Whoa.
That'll be good. OTB AM is brought to you by Avantcard, powered by MasterCard. John Duggan is on hold. He's in Lahinch. John, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger, Colm and Anthony.
How's it going?
Good, yeah. Not a puff of wind here. Not a puff.
So 6, 7 under, 9 under in the clubhouse by the end of the day?
I don't know about that. I mean, like the lads who went out first at 6:45, Wade Ormsby, and he's level par. The scoring they haven't been lighting it up yet. He won Park from Korea, leads on 2 under par. But like the leaderboard is changing every 10 seconds. Like we got a load of players on 1 under, David Law, Eric Van Rooyen, Masahiro Kawamura, Gonzalo Fernandez Castaño, Brandon Stone, Oliver Wilson and Thomas Peters. Graham McDowell has bogey the second. He's 1 over par. Shane Lowry's par the first. Darren Clark has 1 over as well after his second hole. So I don't think they're going to get away from. I don't think that we're going to have 64, 63s possibly. I think it'll be more 4 or 5 under par, possibly leading. Like when the wind gets up, surely get more difficult. So I don't think it's going to be 10 under par today, but I think it'll be under par.
Yeah. Okay. My memory of one of the Irish Opens at, I think it was Carton House, was you drove in and the billboards were Clark, McGinley, Harrington, McDowell and Lowry, and I'm not sure if any of them made the cut. So there's always that terror that the Irish lads might just find this week not the right time for them. And that was a different time of the year. Obviously, it wasn't quite as close to the Open and their games weren't as honed as they might be at this stage. But don't like the sound of an early bogey from McDowell.
No, it's not great. You don't want to be like the first 9 here is tricky. Great, by the way, crowds already. Like the first hole, the grandstand was packed. I saw the tee shots of Lowry, Tommy Fleetwood, and last year's winner Russell Knox. They all hit really good tee shots. But I remember Ivor Robson, the announcer. There's a new Ivor Robson. There's a new guy. I don't know what his name is, but there's a new Scottish guy who does the he's got the green jacket. He does the announcing, and they're coming out with these metal drivers that look literally just almost look bought this morning. You're just taking them out of the wrapper. These massive metal drivers, and they just smash it, and then you can't even see the ball. Like trying to see the ball, you really need to be behind the ball to see it. You can't really see it from sideways, and also it's an uphill shot. But the front 9 is tricky. I walked the course yesterday, some of the front 9 holes, and like Thomas Peters on the 4th drove it over the dune. But like some of the holes are tricky, and I do think it needs a little bit of savvy and intelligence to get around the front 9. I think the second 9 is easier. The only par 5s are on the back 9, including the 18th hole. So it is a par 70. It was a longer par, but Paul McGinley's shaved that back to 70. So look, I think Shane Lowry is the form horse. We'd be hoping that he would do well and contend. But of the others, Padraig has had a wrist injury. Darren Clark's been out of form. Ray McDowell has got back into form, but yeah, as you say, not a great start.
Yeah. All right, John, thanks very much for that. We'll talk to you a little later on. It's John Duggan, our man in Lahinch for the week. He put his tips up on offtheball.com yesterday, so if you want to take a financial interest in the week's golf, then get over to offtheball.com and have a look at that. We're going to be back with Transfer Talk in the morning sports news after this, but obviously we did also catch up with Pádraig Harrington yesterday. Have a look.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In-store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
The Sport Ireland campus Blanchardstown is the home of Irish sport, not just for our athletes but for you in the community. Check out our amazing offers for families with kids camps, sport academies and birthday parties. Or for adults, why not join our gym with a 50-metre pool? Or your club, school, friends can book one of our world-class indoor or outdoor facilities, including our brand new field sport covered pitches. Find out more on nationalsportscampus.ie.
The wrist injury has been quite a setback. I've been surprised that I've had injuries before and they've never bothered me. The wrist has definitely set me back. Somebody told me they got 100 to 1 on me.
Yeah.
That's crazy odds. But if I was a betting man, I'd put the money on me that you're going to put on this week. I'd put it on for the Open in 2 weeks' time. I definitely can be ready for the Open in 2 weeks' time. I'm taking a chance with being ready for the Irish Open starting tomorrow.
You mentioned that you spoke to you spoke to Shane Lowry about, he was saying he was going down to the range and he'd see you down there, and you said not today, which is very unusual. Are you having to protect the wrist or?
No, Jay. I've hit more balls in the last couple of months and I've been a madman, as obsessed as you could possibly get. So no, the wrist isn't stopping me doing that. There is a little bit of mobility issue in it, and I do get a little bit of pain, but that's seemingly going to be there for 9 months or whatever, so I have to manage it in some ways, get the physio on it, but nothing stops me hitting golf shots. The reason I'm not doing it this afternoon is I don't need to. I need to go and practice my putting and hit a few bunker shots. I don't need to go and hit the longer shots.
All right, that's all. A lot of information coming from Pádraig Harrington. Don't back me now, back me for the Open.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
He's been very specific.
Yeah,
100 to 1.
Yeah, it's a big price.
Is it? Well,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, for Pádraig Harrington, who is going to just find himself going, this is the Irish Open. I know this course. My buddy is organising it.
Yeah.
I'm the Ryder Cup captain. I don't know.
Are we not in the Ryder Cup captain is a complete burden and a total and utter distraction from your actual game of golf, and therefore...
that's a good point, Tom, but at the same time, it's still Pádraig Harrington who has that...
Yeah, if it was anywhere else,
the juice.
I think 100 to 1 at the Irish Open is big.
Yeah.
I think the 150 to 1 is going to be for the Open is also big now. That's definitely getting €1 each way. Yeah. Tom, what have we got for us this morning? News
the golf is underway. What's been confirmed is Frank Lampard he's come home. Yeah, there was a good piece actually during the week. How important it is to get it as a football manager. So Frank Lampard obviously gets Chelsea. That's crucially important, regardless of his limited success at Derby last season. Anyway, he is the new Chelsea manager. That's been confirmed. And of course, his first games in charge will be in Dublin. Bows and Pats next week. So chance for Irish fans to see Frank in the flesh there with his Chelsea team. Do you think Gil? Some people are saying, the stuff that Derby played wasn't, it's not champagne football, is it? So,
I don't know. We're going to come back to this in transfers with Phil, obviously, because there's lots of gossip now that suddenly starts around Chelsea as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, and of course you can't do it in the transfer market either. So, right, on to the golf. Play is underway at Lahinch. Day one of the Buy Duty Free Irish Open, of course. We did have a 4-way tie. It's now a 7-way tie at the top of the leaderboard. They're all on 1 under par. Let's not get carried away. Not a great Shane Lowry. He's level par, as is Graham McDowell. Darren Clark not with the greatest start. He's actually on 1 over par. This week, though, ideal preparation for some players ahead of the Open Championship at Portrush in 2 weeks' time. Graham McDowell, one man who has fond memories at both venues.
Someone just reminded me that 2000 was Lahinch and Portrush, two big wins. 19 years later, we have the same challenge in front of us. I'll take one of them. I don't even need both. I'm not that greedy. I'll take one of the 2 wins.
Yeah, he'll settle for one. Pádraig Harrington, by the way, 100 to 1 shot Pádraig Harrington. He's out at 1:10 this afternoon. 15-year-old Corey Goff continues her incredible Wimbledon story. She's the youngest woman ever to reach the main draw. She won in straight sets yesterday evening against Magdalena Rybarikova, while Serena Williams is in second round action later today. She's up against Kaja Juvan. 8-time men's champion Roger Federer is up against Jay Clark. And of course, the standout match of the afternoon, as we heard earlier, is Rafael Nadal up against Nick Kyrgios on centre court. In the Women's World Cup, the reigning world champions will face the reigning European champions after last night's action. The Netherlands beat Sweden by 1-0 after extra time in Lyon. Jackie Grunin with the only goal of the game there. That came in the 99th minute. And in the Copa America last night, Peru advanced to the final after a 3-0 win over Chile in that second semi-final. Peru will host Brazil in the final on Sunday. By the way, the first goal is brilliant. The second goal,
the Chilean keeper won't want to watch it again. Attempted to make a tackle near the corner flag, gets completely stranded, and then they tap it in there. But yeah, Peru aiming to win their first Copa America title since 1975, but they've already lost 5-0 to Brazil in this tournament already. And in GAA news, Mayo are through to the Connacht Under-20s football final following last night's 125-16 win over Sligo and Castlebar. The defending champions will face Galway in next Wednesday's final in Tuam. Galway beat Roscommon 17 points to 1-7 in Kiltoom, while Wexford are into the final of the Leinster Under-20 Hurling Championship. They got the better of Offaly by 220 to 118 to book their place in the final. That'll be against either Kilkenny or Galway, who face off tonight. And Cork will face Clare in the Munster Under-20s hurling semi-finals after last night's 120-16 point win over Limerick. 2 cards for you today in racing. Brilliant mixed card at Tipperary from 5:05, and the July Festival continues from Bellewstown from 5:25.
All right, good stuff, Tom. Thanks for that. It's time for another episode of Deal or No Deal, where we go through the worst and best transfer rumours that are circulating around the dark recesses of the internet and in some of the tabloid newspapers too. So Phil has joined us. Phil, good morning to you.
Morning, how you doing?
You feeling tense?
No. Okay. What are you going to do to me?
The music is ratcheting up there in the background. Okay, we're starting off in the pages of Mundo Deportivo. The Catalan paper reports that Barcelona could offer 4 players to Paris Saint-Germain in a sensational swap deal to bring Neymar back to the Nou Camp. Would you rather Philip Coutinho, Samuel Umtiti, Ousmane Dembele and Ivan Rakitic, or on the other side, Neymar?
Wow. That would be an unbelievable deal for PSG.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Coutinho, Umtiti, Dembele and Rakitic. What is the legitimacy rating of this?
I can't... I would have thought if there was going to be a deal, it would be with just Coutinho. There's been a lot of talk about Coutinho going to PSG. Like Dembele, the Barcelona fans like Dembele, but he's had problems with his hamstring, as tends to be the case with a lot of real fast players. But even when they played Liverpool, he came on, and you could hear by the reception he got. Coutinho, if he left, they wouldn't be too sad to see him go. No. PSG would be an all right club for him. Liverpool don't want him.
Rakitic, though, are they not a big fan of his?
Yeah, but he's getting on a bit.
Yeah, I suppose.
That's where they're a little bit vulnerable in midfield. That, like, Sergio Busquets isn't getting any younger. Artur is a bit hit and miss. Rakitic is still neat and tidy, but I just thought, like, when it came down to the crunch in those in that tie semi-final second leg at Anfield, midfield were non-existent.
Rakitic 31. He'll be 32 next March. He's all right. He's still got a couple of years left.
Yeah, a lot of football under his legs, though.
So you're saying it could... You're saying you would take this deal if you're PSG?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Would you take this deal if you were Barcelona?
No.
I mean, think about the money that they're saving from getting rid of Coutinho's, Umtiti's, Dembele and Rakitic's. Okay, if I'm Barcelona, I'm like, I'm just going to keep Dembele and you can have the other 3.
Yeah, it's probably, not a bad deal for them. Actually.
Umtiti, yeah. I mean, it looks like Umtiti is surplus to requirement, so he, he goes back to his home country.
PSG might say yes. PSG would say yes, you're saying?
Yeah, PSG, like Thiago Silva and Marquinhos are their centre halves, but they could do with a bit of cover there.
And so every deal must have a winner and a loser. Who would be the winner and who would be the loser?
It's no doubt PSG would be the big winners there if they got those 4 players. And if Barcelona clear the decks with those 4 players and they get Neymar in and they have a plan to bring in more, don't forget they've got De Jong. So maybe that's why they're thinking, right, let's get rid of Rakitic.
Yeah. Like for like replacement.
And he's
younger.
It's going to be interesting.
Keep Messi happy because Neymar and Messi apparently are buddies.
Really?
Yeah, that's what Graham Hunter said. Messi's the author of this whole thing. He went and said, I want Neymar. Because they obviously had the deal done in principle that was supposed to break at the 1st of July for Griezmann. Deal hasn't happened yet. Griezmann's left hanging on, going, hang on a second, you maybe leave. What's happening here, lads? He's got to be going back to Atletico with his tail between his legs.
They've already got his replacement.
Well, they have. So in news, proper real news as opposed to the made up thing that isn't actually made up by Mundo Deportivo, which must be a totally real story. Athletic Madrid have signed Benfica teenager João Felix for a fee of 126 million. Is this the right move for the Portuguese star?
Yeah, it's a good move. Like playing under Diego Simeone is great as well. I just hope the transfer fee doesn't hamper him, because in terms of ability, yeah, he's serious potential. And going to a club like Atletico is good because, okay, there's pressures there, but it's not Real Madrid or Barcelona.
No, and they've got an amazing record of signing the best strikers in the world before they're the best strikers in the world, the best forwards in the world. But he's incredibly young.
Is that going to be a flip deal? That's what they do. So they're going to sell him for 250 million in a couple of years' time.
It has to be 250. I mean, in fairness, the 126 I think is not. It's not
all up front.
Exactly. Yeah.
So and that's why
staged.
Because he's the fifth most expensive signing in world football. But then if you look at the figure of 126, you're thinking, well, no, Coutinho didn't cost that much, but it's just the way the instalments are.
Where's it gone wrong for Coutinho? Is it as much the crowd and the fact that they've kind of hung him out to dry a few occasions?
No, I think when you play for Liverpool fans won't want to hear this, but there's a big difference playing for Barcelona and Liverpool.
Go on.
Liverpool are the European champions, and when he left, Liverpool were at that stage where they couldn't hold on to him. They couldn't hold on to Suarez. Okay, things have changed now since Klopp has really kind of brought them to the next level, and
fair point.
They can hold their players.
Good save.
But he, when he went to the price tag, and they were expecting him to hit the ground running, but he just hasn't fitted into the system.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is that simple, where a player will fit into a certain way that a club plays, and we were talking about it earlier in the week. I don't even think Coutinho, if he went back to Liverpool, would suit the way Liverpool are playing now.
But is it the Messi effect? Messi seems to be driving everything. He obviously has fingerprints everywhere. And if he just takes a disliking to you, or feels a threat, he's like,
I think you're dead.
It must be hard to play with Messi, knowing that if you do something wrong, he just looks like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So you should get out of there straight away if you can.
Yeah.
And PSG would be perfect kind of situation.
He was the main man. He was the main man when he was at
or Man United.
Liverpool.
I think he would do really well at Man United. I think that it would be a good signing for United as well. He would complement what they have.
Well, they need someone like him.
Conor Masterson to Queen's Park Rangers is confirmed. Do we like the sound of that?
Yeah, as long as he gets first team football. This is a guy that was on the bench for the home leg when Liverpool beat Man City in the quarterfinals of the Champions League a couple of seasons ago, and we never got to see him. We've seen him play for the under-21s. Unfortunately, he had injuries, and he was highly thought of at Liverpool. But how do you break into that Liverpool first team?
You don't really. You hope that there's going to be mad
injuries. It's a good chance for him. QPR are. They're not going to get relegated. They're not going to get promoted. They're just kind of in limbo in the Championship at the moment.
The only thing is the club has clearly improved players beyond all recognition, and his ability to do that is now out of your life. So you hope that he's improved you to that point where now it's first team football that you need. And, players have clearly benefited in that position from going out and playing up against men.
Yeah, I hope he learnt a few things off Virgil van Dijk as well. Well,
that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, some paper talk. Reports from Portugal and Spain say Bruno Fernandes will swap Sporting Lisbon for Old Trafford. The latest line is that Man United are offering €35 million, but the club hope to sell him for €60 million. Who is it, Man United? How much did you say? 35 million? Yeah, 60.
No, it's 60. Always 50. It's at least 50. If it's Man United, you're never letting them away with less than 50.
Pay the United tax.
That's what it is. That's unfortunately where United are at now. People know they need players and they have money, so they're going to always pump it up.
I don't know enough about Bruno Fernandes. What will he do?
He's creative. He's you look at their options now in terms of creativity, and Juan Mata. As good as Juan Mata has been,
I thought he was gone.
Yeah, everyone thought he was gone. He signed a new contract.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people thinking,
Juan Mata signed a new deal.
What are we doing? So, Bruno Fernandes would be a serious upgrade.
He's good around the dressing room, I'd say. Juan Mata.
He's a really good guy. He gives his money to charity.
Just the blog as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, who was willing to take on the blog if Juan Mata left?
Is it?
Did you see Luke Shaw doing a blog?
Well, here's the ice cream parlour. Here's another one. Here's the other one.
Sprinkles on top.
Here's my 300-mile round trip that I did after training down to Southampton instead of sitting at home and resting.
How have they not jettisoned him? No one wants to buy him.
Player of the year. Does this deal happen? Does Bruno Fernandes happen? I mean, Man United have been linked with 110 players. It must be at this stage.
Yeah.
How high is the legitimacy rating here?
It's so easy to get a bit of legs in a story, a transfer story. Just put United's name in it, and people straight away they perk up. But I don't know. I don't think it's. I'd be surprised if it happens. It would be a great deal for United.
Back to Manchester United. Sorry, they're ready to step up their efforts to sign Sean Longstaff from Newcastle. Is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's British-centric, low-watt, sensible approach to the market a good idea, or does he need to bring in a headliner?
Well, the headliner thing hasn't worked. So they're obviously trying to change things. And Wan-Bissaka, Daniel James, there's two British players.
This is going to happen, isn't it? Look, this is the bang of something's going to happen.
Well, I mean, if you're Sean Longstaff, like what a breakthrough season for him. But you're looking at things at Newcastle. Rafa's gone. The guy that brought you in, you don't know who's going to be the next manager.
No, get out while you can.
Get out while you can.
Especially if it's Man United. Okay, so where will Frank Lampard, as Chelsea boss, finish in his first season in the Premier League as a manager?
That's if he finishes his first season.
Yeah, will he?
Genuine.
No, he's definitely going to, no matter what he does. The team could be 10th at Christmas and he'll be able to convince Roman Abramovich that that's the right thing to do.
What did we say? 14 managers in 16 years?
Yeah.
So, you just divide that out, it's roughly what? A year and a bit?
He'll get a season. He's got he's got Champions League football. That actually could be an issue because the squad mightn't be good enough.
So where are they finishing?
They're not going to finish top 4.
6th?
Nah, 5th because Arsenal.
Okay. Anthony, we've got 4 minutes left here to go through these games of the weekend. I meant to get them a bit earlier, but there you go. My apologies to everybody. Cork are -2 against Laois. This is the first game of the weekend, 5 o'clock on Saturday, at the same time as Tyrone and Cavan. This one is in Semple Stadium. The Tyrone Cavan is in St Tiernack's Park in Clonus. Tyrone are -4 against Cavan. Tyrone 4-point favourites. Cork 2-point favourites against Laois. Who's going to win the Cork game?
I think Cork will win it.
Close?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen in that game. There's a chance that Laois are on a bit of a roll, but Cork's so good. So
yeah, I think Cork impressed me, but my worry is that it just the one-hit wonder against Kerry. That they got up for it. But to be fair, I think they've got some really good players in good positions. They showed a lot of speed. I think they're not too bad. And as I said, they've readjusted 2 players on the team, which I think will help.
Were they going to win by more than 2?
It'll be thereabouts.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? It'd be better bet than Tyrone -4.
Tyrone -4 against Cavan. BL spread for a Tyrone team that
it is.
They're impressive against Kildare, but
they were, and I think I've said it. They just got it wrong against Donegal. Lost Petey Hart as well.
It was important, it turns out.
Yeah, he is important. Yeah, just so happens. He's important in every aspect of their game. But Cavan definitely will be no pushover. And I think Cavan could set up to frustrate them.
Yeah.
They'll stop the running game and they'll force them to use McShane inside. And I think that could cause problems for Tyrone. Tyrone are caught, Cara O'Kane had a pretty good article, I don't know if you saw it during the week, he was just saying that they're like a flatbed truck now, they're just trying to run over people again due to the Kildare game, and he says that won't work in the later games, because it didn't work against Dublin, so they tried to adjust, which was the kicking game. They then went, okay, we're getting rid of that, we're going back to the running game for Kildare, which blew Kildare out of the water.
Yeah, so I don't know, I wonder if they're just doing horses for courses and they've actually reached a level of sophistication where they can mix and match. So we'll see that in the championship. Give me one more prediction for that one.
I think Tyrone win it, but not more. I'd be inside that. I think it's 2 or 3.
That's a much more than one word prediction. Mayo against Galway is for the good of the championship. Do we want Mayo in the Super 8 is what the question says here from my producer.
I think Mayo win that.
Do you?
Yeah.
With or without O'Shea?
With.
So if he's not playing, does that change it to the point where it's actually...
No.
Okay, so Galway are just a busted flush at this point.
I don't know where Galway are at the moment. I really don't. I can't. I think there's question marks all over.
Yeah, but this is it for them.
Yeah, and I'd say there's question marks within the squad of what way we... Like, if you think Corofin are probably one of the most dynamic teams in the country, bar none.
Yeah.
They're playing a brand of football that, inter-county setups would go, we should actually be just replicating that. And then you've got the complete opposite in the inter-county setup. So even if you're a Corofin player going in there, you're going, this is pretty alien to me. So I'm a bit bemused by Galway, and I think Mayo will continue to run.
Meath are 2-point favourites against Clare. That one is the Sunday 2:00 throw in O'Moore Park in Portlaoise. Meath are going through, right? Come on, Meath against Clare. It would never have been a game back in the day, and here we are suddenly staring down the barrel.
Yeah, no, I think Meath will win it, and I think it's not. I think psychological effect. That's the big thing for them. I hope they get Porrick Harnan back, because him back at 6 leaves Kyogan to be free at 7. I'd say they'll readjust their midfield. I would not be surprised if they brought Menton. I'd say they'll bring someone in to partner him. I think they'll strengthen the squad, and then they'll make a couple of changes up front. I'll tell you the best thing to do for this is to make about 4 changes on a team, freshen it up, bring fellas in who are chomping at the bit.
Yeah, and I think they probably will win, because but Clare have been great and have been one of the stories of the summer so far. And
they have been fantastic.
If they were to win, it would be a fitting end.
The only thing I would say is that Heslin was lost after 5 minutes in that game against Westmeath, and Westmeath pushed them all the way, and really Westmeath could have won that.
Okay, all right, Anthony, good stuff today. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks to you two lads as well. We'll be back live from 7 o'clock tonight on the radio and across all of our social channels as well. OTBAM is available as a podcast. OTB Sports Radio is live. We're working on Alexa, so if you just say, Alexa, open OTB Sports Radio on TuneIn, she should be able to fix that for you. Google Home, we don't know what's wrong with you, but we're getting that fixed too. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.
OTB AM. Brought to you by Avantcard Reward Plus Credit Card. Powered by MasterCard. Straight up, better than your current credit card. Avantcard DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.